Okay, so I'm going to tie up a bonefish fly, a variant of a gotcha that for me has been really successful down in the Bahamas. I'll show you the materials first. I'm using an SC15 size 2 hook. We've got some Danville's flat wax nylon. This is in their fluorescent pink. We're going to use a little mylar tubing in the small size. We're going to use some Arctic Fox in tan and Arctic Fox in yellow chartreuse. For flash, I'm going to use a little Midge flash in cream, and Midge flash is a variant of crystal flash. It's a little finer, and the strands aren't as long. For some contrasting flash, I'm going to use a little Grizzly crystal flash. This is white and black, but you can use brown crystal flash or black crystal flash. I'm also going to use some legs, some barred and speckled crazy legs for this pattern. So first we're going to go ahead and wind the thread on, and we're going to go ahead and trim this, if I could find my scissors, which are right here. And I'm going to put some eyes on this. I'm going to put some small bead chain eyes. To do this, I like to put a little super glue right on top of the thread. And I usually put them around 6 millimeters or so back from the eye. Make a couple of wraps to start to secure it, and then make some figure 8 wraps. And then what really locks these in are these parallel wraps to your tying table and underneath the eyes. That was one there. I'll do a couple of little figure 8s, and I'll do another one of those wraps, and just really pull that tight and lock those eyes in. And it's good to have them locked in because the bonefish like to twist the eyes. One way you could tell sometimes if you're not sure if you had an encounter with a bonefish is to check the eyes. If they're twisted, it means usually that a bonefish hit your fly and you just didn't feel it. So we'll wrap the thread back. Usually with this thread, I need to do a wrap back and then up to get that nice pink color on the hook, and it covers the color of the hook shaft up nicely. We'll take our mylar tubing. You've got to pull that little core of fibrous material out of there and really hold on to it well, because this stuff could all come apart. And we'll grab that and just bind that down here onto the hook and secure it. I usually like to wrap up the bend of the hook. What this does for you is it gets in the fly's natural position. It gets this flash to sit up a little bit. And instead of riding right on top of the sand or the turtle grass where it can potentially get lost. And I like to trim this a little longer than 1 centimeter or so in length. Next, we'll take our Bill's body braid and secure that. You could use flat diamond braid or any other kind of braid for this. I like to leave a little bit of the thread wraps exposed at the back here, just to provide a little contrast. And we'll just wrap that around pretty loosely. Again, I like to let some of that pink color sort of bleed through here. And we'll just secure that up here at the top. And we'll trim that off. Next, we'll take our tan Arctic Fox, and you've got to pull the small underbrush off, under coating here, and keep this stuff. It makes great dubbing if you're tying other bonefish flies that have dubbing, like a mantis shrimp. Really good dubbing there. take our Arctic fox and measure. I usually like to do around 5 centimeters, and I like these nice guard hairs that you could see. Definitely want to keep those in the pattern. And we'll just lock those in here with a couple wraps and give a little haircut here. Next, we'll take our yellow Arctic fox. And here I don't really go for guard hairs. If there's some in there, great. And usually I use around 1/5 of the amount of this as the tan Arctic fox. And we'll just bind that in here as well. And little haircut too. Take our legs and we'll tie those in. I just do it on top of the eye on one side, usually around 5 centimeters or so is good. And then we'll turn our hook over and just secure down for the other side. And then basically just trim these to length so that they're even here. And next we'll put a little flash in. So usually, you know, anywhere from 3 to 5 long fibers of this midge flash, and I like to keep it long so I could use it on both sides. So we'll get 3 in on one side and then just turn the fly over and wrap those onto the other side. So I've got 6 total in. We'll trim that. I usually like to trim it just a little bit longer than the guard hairs, and certainly don't cut the ends of your guard hairs off when you're trimming. And then next, we will take our crystal flash of contrasting color here, and we're going to go ahead and lock that in as well. And on one side, I like to turn the fly and then wrap onto the other side. And again, we'll go ahead and do a little trimming here just to keep these down to size. Sometimes I'll leave these contrasting flash just a little longer than the rest of the fly. Now, the last thing I like to do is I like to grab all the material and put up 1 or 2 wraps of this thread right behind it. And that gets it to stick up a little bit so that when your fly's down against the sand or turtle grass, it doesn't get lost. I mean, like to be able to let the fish, you know, see the fly, and hopefully they'll eat it then. And then for the whip finish, I like to just put the head cement right on to the thread itself, and we'll do a little whip finish here. So here's the fly. Here's the fly if the bonefish is following your fly, how they're going to see it. And then this is in profile. And again, this flies work really well for me. I use it most of the time when I'm bone fishing. Tie it up in some different weights of eyes so that you could fish it in different water. And I hope if you use it, you have success.